we get to our first question. Okay? This is probably it is probably the most popular question I get. What happened to the dinosaurs? I mean, they're not alive today, are they?
Nope.
Oh. Well, we can't be sure about that. Okay, I'll come back to that concept in a minute. But let's presume for a moment they aren't. Well, let's look first at the biblical history. What does the Bible history have to say about the dinosaurs? The Bible history is pretty clear here. What happened? Well, they were around before the flood. They lived in the garden. They lived on the earth before the flood. They got to be really large. Interesting that they got large because that's what happens to reptiles. A reptile, when you feed it, grows. It doesn't reach a mature size and stop growing. It continues to grow as long as you feed it. And then, of course, when it dies, it stops growing like anything else. So reptiles grow to whatever size the food chain will allow them. And in fact, that's why the dinosaurs got so big. But after Noah's flood, Noah took 2 of every kind of air-breathing, land-walking animal on the ark. The dinosaurs came off also. But after the flood, conditions were different. There was a shortage of food. All that wonderful, beautiful garden with all these vegetables and fruits and nuts in it that the animals had eaten without any real restriction was gone. It became the fuel you drove here tonight on, if you drove in, okay? The coal and oil became the vegetation, became the coal and oil. So there was a shortage of food in the post-flood world. In addition, the mammals became carnivorous. Because there was not much food, animals began to kill and eat one another. Now, they may have done that before the flood. It's possible. But there's no essential reason for them to do it. Could have done it because of sin, but there's no compelling reason. After the flood, there's a compelling reason. You die of hunger, or you kill and eat something else. So carnivorous behavior begins to happen among the mammals. In addition, in the post-flood conditions, and we'll touch on this a little bit later, another question, we have a great ice age. And the Great Ice Age, of course, means the climatology, particularly of the Northern Hemisphere, the ice comes down to about the Great Lakes in North America, and it comes down to about Central Europe in the European continent, and you can just draw a line right across Asia and see where it's through most of Mongolia. That post-flood Ice Age, of course, changes climatic conditions to the extent that cold-blooded mammals will not do well. They will die from just being cold, or they will die from starvation because there's not much food, or they can't escape the carnivorous mammals chasing them. So the reptiles are going to disappear quite significantly during that post-flood era, and part of the reason for that is their cold-blooded nature. In addition to just the conditions of the Ice Age, the weather now becomes much harsher. In the pre-flood world, we had an Earth with a greenhouse effect. It was probably like a garden. In the post-flood world, that's not true. We have the current weather regime we have today, and the weather today can be quite catastrophic, as we've just seen, right? Yeah. That was a big blizzard in the Northeast. I've got a good bit of family that lives up there, and my daughter lives in Pennsylvania. They had 28 inches of snow on top of 4 they had on the ground already. So they have quite excited. The little 3-year-old loved it. She said she got in the snow, and Daddy had to rescue her. That was really cool. But the point simply is the weather got catastrophic, and that didn't help the reptiles survive either. So the dinosaurs disappeared because of being eaten by other creatures, the post-flood conditions, and they went extinct. That's not surprising, based on the creation model. Creatures are going to go extinct all the time. That's what you'd expect in a world that's fallen, a world that's in a process of decay and continuous decline. But that shouldn't be true if evolution were true. If evolution were true, we should see new creatures appearing. And no new creatures appear. Since man's observed nature, nothing new has evolved from anything else. Okay, that's the simple creation model. Now the evolutionists are stuck. They've got a serious problem with this because they have to put the dinosaurs in an era way before and explain why they're not with us anymore. The first question I want to address here is, first of all, why are they extinct? Well, first question I have to ask you is, are they extinct? Because there's no certain way to know if a creature is extinct unless you were able to walk around the earth at the same time, have a place in every place on the earth, looking 360 degrees around them, saying, I don't see the creature. Otherwise, you never know if a certain creature is extinct, because it may be somewhere else. There's a creature in the Congo River today called Mokili Momembe. That's what the natives call it. And that may, in fact, be a living dinosaur. We don't know. The Discovery Channel went this past summer to try to discover it, and they were unsuccessful. They'll try again next year. But even if they find a living dinosaur, that won't deter the evolutionists from their model. Okay? So let's presume for a moment, we'll just accede to the fact. We'll say, okay, let's presume that the dinosaurs are extinct. The question is, why they get extinct? Well, Isaac Asimov, a very famous atheist that's not an atheist anymore. Anyone know why? He's dead.
He knows the truth.
Take a while to soak that one. Okay. But this is what he said. The gigantic reptiles began to disappear for some unknown reason. The cause of this great dying remains the most tantalizing problem in paleontology. He's saying that simply because they cannot accept the biblical record. They will not accept the global flood, so he has to make it a mystery. So they make it a mystery. So they try to explain it. They try to explain it in many different ways. First of all, they don't believe this at all. They don't believe that dinosaurs and men lived together on the earth, even though there's some significant evidence for that, and we won't touch on that much tonight, but there's significant evidence. They don't believe that at all. They believe that dinosaurs lived at a time independent of man, and the question is, well, then why did they disappear? These are some of the theories. Now, everything I'm going to give you here, it's going to be probably a little funny. We're going to get a little humor here. But every one of these things on pictures I'm going to show you represent real theories about why the dinosaurs went extinct. Okay? The first one was, they ate too much. They just ate too much, they got really fat, and they weren't able to survive under the conditions of having too much food. They didn't eat enough, they starved to death. That's another viable theory. This next one now is discredited later on with some research, but I thought it was interesting at the time. They ate the wrong stuff. In fact, there was some thought that because of their indigestion and producing so much stomach gas, that they actually poisoned their own atmosphere. Of course, that's kind of silly. But that was one of the theories at one time. But this is probably the real reason. If you remember in the movie Jurassic Park 2, the second one, we have the little girl saying to the dinosaur, "You some kind of little bird?" We have the dinosaur saying, "No, you're some kind of little monkey." But if dinosaurs did turn into birds, like Jurassic Park wanted us to believe, we should find this creature. Turkosaurus rex. Now, y'all are laughing, and I admit this is pretty funny. But the evolutionists take this very seriously. I mean, this is from a guidebook for a museum of natural history in England, and this is what it says. The smallest dinosaur is the bee hummingbird, found only in Cuba. The male of this bird reaches an adult weight of approximately 2 grams. That's the smallest dinosaur. Now that's right out of their book. So we said, well, if that's the smallest dinosaur, we should probably be able to draw a transition, right? Something in between becoming that dinosaur. We drew Homiosaurus. And then finally, if dinosaurs turned into birds, we've had a lot of fun with that, but the point simply is the two models are very different in how they assess it. And there is significant evidence, and I won't go into this any more depth, but there is significant evidence that dinosaurs and men did live together. There's cave paintings, cave drawings, and all kinds of accounts in historical documents that recount encounters with dinosaurs. That's not uncommon.